The Keaton family walked into America's living rooms in 1982 and changed television forever. But behind those warm family dinners and Alex's briefcase obsession lies a twisted web of network battles, near cancellations, and secrets that could have destroyed the show before it became a phenomenon. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about one of the 80s most beloved sitcoms. Number 20. The show was almost canceled. After 13 episodes.
How on earth can you possibly justify doing what you did to me tonight? Go ahead, I'm listening. Oh, I know. I got 18 years under this belt. And my life is in my own hands.
Family Ties was dying a slow death in its first season, and NBC was sharpening the axe. The network had greenlit the show with moderate expectations, but by episode 13, the ratings were so abysmal that cancellation papers were being drafted in executive offices. Brandon Tartikoff, NBC's entertainment president, had championed the series based on creator Gary David Goldberg's vision of a liberal couple raising conservative kids during the Reagan era, but audiences weren't biting. The Cosby Show hadn't arrived yet to save NBC's Thursday nights, and the network was bleeding viewers to CBS and ABC. Internal memos revealed that executives considered Family Ties too political and not relatable enough for middle America. The show's fate hung by a thread so thin that the cast was told to prepare for unemployment. Production assistants were already boxing up props when something miraculous happened. A scheduling quirk placed a repeat episode after the A-Team, NBC's highest-rated show, and suddenly millions of viewers discovered the Keatons. The ratings spike was immediate and undeniable. NBC executives hastily reversed their decision, ordering additional episodes and moving the show to a permanent slot following their action juggernaut. That single scheduling accident saved Family Ties from the television graveyard and launched it toward becoming one of the decade's most influential sitcoms. Without the A-Team's audience overflow, Alex P. Keaton would have never worn his suit and tie beyond that first season. Number 19. Michael J. Fox was not the original star.
I thought you had a lot of work to do.
Well, Dad, I was thinking, term papers and exams come and go, but the family unit is the one true constant in life.
When did all that occur to you?
As I was coming down the stairs. Are these dice in proper working order?
Matthew Broderick almost wore Alex P. Keaton's power ties instead of Michael J. Fox, and the show would have been completely different. When Gary David Goldberg began casting Family Ties, he envisioned the series as an ensemble piece focused on the parents, Stephen and Elise Keaton, played by Michael Gross and Meredith Baxter. The kids were supposed to be supporting characters, particularly the young Republican son who would provide occasional comic relief. Broderick, fresh off his Broadway success, was the frontrunner for Alex, and he came incredibly close to signing. His screen test showed promise, but something felt off to Goldberg. The chemistry wasn't quite right, and Broderick's Alex felt more quirky than ambitious. Meanwhile, Michael J. Fox was grinding away on a failed CBS sitcom called Palmerstown, USA, which was circling the drain. Fox's agent pushed hard for him to audition, but Fox was contractually obligated to his dying show and couldn't commit. Goldberg cast Matthew Laborteaux instead for the pilot, but the network rejected him immediately. Desperate and running out of time, Goldberg waited for Palmerstown to be officially canceled before approaching Fox again. When Fox finally auditioned, everyone in the room knew they'd found their Alex. His performance crackled with energy, ambition, and an unexpected vulnerability. But here's the twist. Even after Fox was cast, the network still marketed the show as being about the parents, with promotional materials barely featuring the kids at all. Number 18. The show's theme song was written in one night.
I bet we've been together for 1,000,000 years.
And I bet we'll be together.
What would we do, baby, without us?
Jeff Barry and Tom Scott created Without Us, the iconic Family Ties theme song, during a frantic all-night session just 72 hours before the series premiere. NBC had rejected 3 previous theme submissions, calling them too dated and not memorable enough. With the clock ticking and executives threatening to use generic elevator music, Barry locked himself in a studio with Scott and refused to leave until they had something special. The duo had written hits for everyone from the Monkees to Barbra Streisand, but this assignment felt different. They needed something that captured both the warmth of family and the generational tension at the show's core. Scott laid down the melody first, a soft jazz-influenced progression that felt both contemporary and timeless. Barry scribbled lyrics on a napkin, crossing out lines and rewriting them dozens of times. "Without us" kept appearing in his notes, a phrase that encapsulated how families complete each other despite their differences. By 4 in the morning, they had a rough demo. By noon, they'd convinced Johnny Mathis and Denise Williams to record it. The vocal session happened so quickly that Williams later admitted she didn't fully understand what show the song was for until she saw the pilot episode. NBC executives heard the final version on a Friday afternoon and approved it immediately, just in time for the show's Sunday premiere. That sleep-deprived gamble resulted in one of television's most recognizable theme songs, so beloved that it was released as a single and actually charted on Billboard's Adult Contemporary list. Number 17. Alex Keaton was based on a real person.
No, I wasn't talking to myself. I was talking to Greg.
Oh, that's better.
I was supposed to be in that car with him, Mal.
Yeah, but you weren't.
No, I wasn't. You know why?
Gary David Goldberg modeled Alex P. Keaton after his own nephew, a die-hard young conservative who drove his liberal family absolutely insane during the Reagan years. Goldberg came from a progressive Berkeley background. He'd protested Vietnam, embraced counterculture, and built his career writing socially conscious comedy. Family gatherings became ideological battlegrounds when his sister's teenage son started showing up in three-piece suits, quoting Milton Friedman, and defending trickle-down economics with evangelical fervor. The kid wasn't a caricature or a joke. He genuinely believed in conservative values with the same passion Goldberg's generation had brought to liberal causes. This fascinated and frustrated Goldberg in equal measure. He couldn't understand how someone so young could be so buttoned up and traditional, but he also recognized the dramatic potential in that generational reversal. Instead of hippie kids rebelling against conservative parents, the standard sitcom formula. What if the roles were flipped? What if the liberal parents had to deal with a son who worshipped Ronald Reagan? The nephew became the template for Alex, right down to specific quirks. The real kid actually carried a briefcase to high school, wore ties to family dinners, and had a poster of William F. Buckley in his bedroom. Goldberg softened some edges and added vulnerability to make Alex likable, but the core was pure family autobiography. Years later, the nephew admitted he loved the show, but wished Alex had been even more conservative. Number 16. The cast almost quit over pay. Disputes.
Alex, aku mau bicara sama kamu. Aku butuh saran kamu tentang sesuatu. Ini serius banget.
Rambut kamu bagus, Pak. Boleh aku pergi sekarang?
I just don't get it, Mal. Why am I still alive?
You're still alive to aggravate me.
No.
The entire Family Ties cast threatened to walk off set during Season 3 negotiations, nearly imploding the show at the height of its success. Michael J. Fox had become a breakout star, and his salary reflected his value to NBC. He was earning more than the rest of the cast, combined by a substantial margin. Meredith Baxter and Michael Gross, who'd been sold the show as an ensemble piece about the parents, felt betrayed and undervalued. Justine Bateman and Tina Yothers, playing daughters Mallory and Jennifer, were being paid scale despite the show's skyrocketing ratings. The tension exploded during a table read when Baxter refused to continue until she received a substantial raise. She argued correctly that without the Keaton parents, there was no show. Alex needed someone to rebel against. Gross backed her immediately, and the younger cast members followed suit. Paramount Studios tried to lowball everyone, offering minimal increases while the show was generating millions in advertising revenue. The standoff lasted 3 weeks, during which no new episodes were filmed. NBC executives panicked as their Thursday night anchor teetered on collapse. Rival networks started making offers to individual cast members, hoping to poach talent for competing projects. Finally, Paramount caved under pressure from the network. Baxter and Gross received significant raises, though still far below Fox's salary. Bateman negotiated a deal that included profit participation, making her one of the youngest actors with points on a series. The resolution came just days before. NBC would have been forced to air reruns during sweeps week. Number 15. Tracy Pollan was almost fired before becoming Fox's wife.
Yes.
Excuse me. You're not Tricia Armstrong, are you?
No, I'm Ellen Reed. Sorry to disappoint you. Trisha's my roommate.
Tracy Pollan's chemistry with Michael J. Fox was so explosive that producers considered firing her because they feared it would destroy the show's dynamic. Pollan arrived in season 4 as Ellen Reed, Alex's girlfriend and intellectual equal, a character specifically created to give Fox a romantic storyline. From their first scene together, something magical happened. The writers had crafted sharp, witty dialogue, but Fox and Pollan elevated it with natural timing and genuine affection that couldn't be faked. Director Sam Wiseman noticed it immediately during rehearsals. So did the rest of the cast, particularly Meredith Baxter, who joked that she needed sunglasses to film their scenes because the chemistry was so bright. But network executives worried that pairing Alex with a steady girlfriend would eliminate romantic tension and make the show feel settled and boring. NBC's research department ran focus groups that confirmed these fears. Test audiences loved Ellen, but worried the show would lose its edge. Paramount executives debated whether to write Pollan out after her initial 4-episode arc. Here's where it gets complicated. Fox and Pollan had started dating in real life during filming, something they kept secret from producers for months. When the secret emerged, executives panicked further, convinced that a real-life breakup would create on-set tension that could tank the show. They drafted exit scripts for Ellen, planning to replace her with a rotating cast of girlfriends. But audience ratings told a different story. Episodes featuring Ellen scored higher than those without her. Fan mail poured in demanding more Ellen. NBC reversed course, making Pollan a recurring character and eventually promoting her to regular cast status. Fox and Pollan married in 1988, proving the executives wrong about both their relationship and their professional chemistry. Number 14. The Mallory character was almost written. As a genius.
Alex, aku serius. Aku punya masalah.
Kita semua tahu itu, Mallory, tapi mengakuinya.
Alex, hentikan. Dia benar-benar sulit buatku.
Maaf, Mer.
Mallory Keaton was originally conceived as a brilliant artist whose creativity clashed with Alex's rigid worldview. But test audiences found the smart sister dynamic confusing and boring. Gary David Goldberg's first scripts portrayed Mallory as academically average but artistically gifted. She painted, sculpted, and saw the world through an aesthetic lens that baffled her economics-obsessed brother. The pilot episode included a subplot where Mallory's abstract painting wins a prestigious award, while Alex's science project fails, teaching him that intelligence comes in many forms. NBC executives watched the pilot and immediately flagged the Mallory character as problematic. Focus groups couldn't differentiate between the siblings' conflicts, and Mallory felt like Alex but with different interests, rather than a distinct personality. The network demanded changes, pushing Goldberg to make Mallory more obviously different from her intellectual brother. Under pressure and running out of time, the writers leaned into the opposite extreme, making Mallory fashion-obsessed and academically challenged. It was supposed to be temporary, a first-season characterization they'd soften later. But something unexpected happened. Justine Bateman's performance made Mallory hilarious and oddly endearing despite her superficial traits. Her comedic timing turned potentially mean-spirited jokes into lovable moments. Audiences adored her, and suddenly Mallory wasn't the smart sister anymore. She was the pretty, ditzy one, and that became her defining trait for 7 seasons. Bateman later expressed frustration with how the character evolved, feeling that Mallory could have represented something more meaningful than just the dumb sister stereotype. Goldberg admitted in interviews that he regretted bowing to network pressure, believing his original vision for Mallory would have been more progressive and interesting. Number 13. A real Republican congressman tried to sue the show.
Dad, if you just give us a chance, we can explain everything.
Can you? Can you explain parking in the driveway? The flashing vacancy sign in front of the house?
Ohio, Republican Congressman Willis Gradison threatened legal action against NBC, claiming Alex P. Keaton was an unauthorized parody of his political career and personal mannerisms. Gradison, elected in 1975 and serving until 1993, was known for his youthful appearance, three-piece suits, and earnest conservative rhetoric that sometimes veered into self-parody. When Family Ties debuted, staffers in Gradison's office started making jokes about their boss being the inspiration for Alex. At first, Gradison laughed it off, even mentioning the comparison in a speech to young Republicans. But as the show's popularity exploded and Alex became increasingly associated with Reagan-era conservatism, Gradison grew concerned that people believed he actually was the model. Reporters started asking about it. Constituents referenced Alex in town halls. Late-night comedians made the connection in monologues. Gradison's anxiety peaked when a Saturday Night Live sketch portrayed him as the real-life Alex P. Keaton, a joke that went viral before viral was even a term. His legal team sent NBC a letter demanding clarification that Alex was fictional and not based on any specific person. The network's lawyers panicked, fearing a defamation lawsuit that could cost millions. Gary David Goldberg issued a public statement explaining that Alex was a composite character, inspired by multiple sources, including his nephew, but not modeled after any politician. He specifically mentioned that while he respected Gradison's career, they'd never met, and Alex's character existed before Goldberg had even heard the congressman's name. The legal threat fizzled, but the damage was done. For the rest of his career, Gradison couldn't escape Alex comparisons, and it arguably cost him credibility with older conservative voters who saw him as a sitcom joke. Number 12. Michael J. Fox. Filmed Back to the Future. While working full-time on the show,
Dad, I just lost my head, you know? When the money started rolling in, I got out of control. I could smell it. I could hear it calling me at night saying, Alex, at last we'll be together.
Michael J. Fox's grueling schedule during Back to the Future's production nearly cooled him, forcing the Family Ties crew to film around his complete physical and mental exhaustion. When director Robert Zemeckis replaced Eric Stoltz with Fox just weeks into Back to the Future's shoot, Paramount Pictures faced a logistical nightmare. Fox was contractually obligated to Family Ties, filming 5 days a week for a sitcom that depended entirely on his comedic timing and energy. Gary David Goldberg refused to release Fox from his contract, believing the show would collapse without its star. Universal Studios, producing Back to the Future, couldn't wait for Family Ties season to end without blowing their budget and losing their summer release date. The solution was insane. Fox would work both jobs simultaneously. His schedule became inhuman. Wake at 5 a.m., film Family Ties from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., race across Los Angeles to Universal Studios, film Back to the Future from 3 p.m. to midnight or later, sleep 3 or 4 hours, repeat. This nightmare lasted nearly 3 months. Fox existed on catnaps in his trailer, coffee by the gallon, and sheer willpower. The Family Ties cast watched him deteriorate in real time. Meredith Baxter recalled finding Fox asleep standing up during a break. Michael Gross said Fox sometimes forgot his lines mid-scene, something that had never happened before. The crew started writing episodes with fewer Alex scenes, using clever editing and tight shooting schedules to maximize efficiency. Several times, Fox fell asleep in his car in the parking lot, too tired to drive home. His Back to the Future co-stars covered for him constantly, with Christopher Lloyd particularly protective of the exhausted actor. Zemeckis rearranged shooting schedules around Fox's availability, filming other scenes when Fox wasn't available. Somehow, miraculously, Fox delivered brilliant performances in both projects. Family Ties remained NBC's Thursday night anchor, and Back to the Future became the biggest movie of 1985. But Fox later admitted the experience was traumatic, and he swore never to overextend himself like that again. Number 11. The show's political message changed after Reagan's re-election.
स्वागत है। मुझे नहीं पता था कि तुम यहाँ हो। अरे अंकल नेट, तुम ठीक हो?
मैं ठीक हूँ। चलो।
Gary David Goldberg softened Alex's conservatism and the show's political edge after Ronald Reagan's overwhelming 1984 re-election convinced him America wasn't interested in satirizing Republican values. The show's first 2 seasons featured sharper political commentary, with Alex's views often presented as naive or misguided. Stephen and Elise usually won their ideological battles with their son, using logic and life experience to expose the flaws in his Reagan worship. Episodes tackled serious issues: nuclear proliferation, social welfare cuts, environmental deregulation, always with Alex on the wrong side and learning lessons by the end. Goldberg believed he was crafting progressive television that gently mocked the rightward shift of American politics. But when Reagan crushed Walter Mondale in 49 states, winning 525 electoral votes in the biggest landslide in modern history, Goldberg realized he'd completely misread the country's mood. Americans didn't want their conservatism challenged. They wanted it celebrated. NBC executives, reading the same tea leaves, pressured Goldberg to make Alex more sympathetic and his views more reasonable. Reluctantly, Goldberg complied. Starting in season 3, Alex's conservatism became less about policy and more about personality quirks. His ambition replaced his ideology as the primary source of comedy. Stephen and Elise stopped winning every argument, with many episodes ending in ideological stalemates or even Alex proving his parents wrong. The show became less politically satirical and more about universal family dynamics. Goldberg later expressed regret about this shift, feeling he'd compromised his original vision. But the ratings soared even higher, proving the network right. By making Alex lovable rather than laughable, Family Ties became acceptable to Reagan's America rather than a critique of it. Number 10. Tom Hanks's guest appearance was almost cut from the episode.
Alex, what difference does it make? Warts was never going to give me that job. I never had a chance.
That is not true. You had a very good...
Keatons are always going to be around to hold the family banner high. Alex here will probably be running the country before he's even 35 years old. Now, what difference?
Tom Hanks appeared as Elise's alcoholic brother, Ned, in a groundbreaking 2-part episode that NBC executives initially refused to air because they considered the subject matter too dark and depressing for a family sitcom. The 1985 episodes, titled Say Uncle, featured Hanks delivering a devastating dramatic performance as a man whose drinking has destroyed his life and relationships. Gary David Goldberg fought hard for these episodes, believing sitcoms had a responsibility to address serious issues with honesty rather than cheap jokes. Hanks, still early in his career but showing dramatic range, threw himself into the role with method intensity that shocked the cast. Meredith Baxter recalled Hank staying in character between takes, remaining withdrawn and troubled even during breaks. The performance was so raw that NBC's Standards and Practices Department flagged multiple scenes as too intense for primetime television. Executives argued that Family Ties viewers tuned in for laughs, not lectures about addiction. They wanted the episodes shelved or heavily edited to remove the darker elements. Goldberg threatened to quit if the network interfered, and Michael J. Fox backed him publicly, telling reporters that these were the most important episodes the show had ever produced. The standoff lasted weeks, with NBC ultimately agreeing to air the episodes largely intact, but scheduling them during a less prominent time slot as a compromise. When they finally aired, the response was overwhelming. Critics praised both the writing and Hank's performance, with several noting that he'd proven his dramatic capabilities. The episodes won Emmy consideration and drew the show's highest ratings of the season. Hanks later cited this role as crucial to his transition from comedy to serious acting, directly leading to his casting in Nothing in Common and eventually his dramatic breakthrough in Philadelphia. Number 9, Justine Bateman and Michael J. Fox didn't get along. At first,
Why don't we
disobeyed you because you were wrong. Without just cause or provocation, you denied me permission to do something I haven't.
Justine Bateman resented Michael J. Fox during the first season because she believed his star treatment was destroying the show's ensemble dynamic and making her look incompetent by comparison. When Bateman joined the cast at just 16 years old, she expected to be part of a team where everyone contributed equally. Instead, she walked into a production that increasingly revolved around Fox, with scripts being rewritten to give him more screen time and better jokes. Bateman felt her character was being reduced to Alex's dumb sister, rather than a fully realized person. The tension exploded during rehearsals for an episode where Mallory was supposed to have a significant storyline about her art. The script was rewritten overnight to focus on Alex's reaction to Mallory's art instead, effectively making her subplot about him. Bateman confronted Fox directly, accusing him of stealing scenes and demanding more attention from writers. Fox, exhausted from his Back to the Future schedule and defensive about accusations he couldn't control, fired back that he was just doing his job, and if her performance was suffering, that was her problem, not his. The argument happened in front of the entire cast and crew, creating awkward tension that lasted weeks. Meredith Baxter and Michael Gross intervened, organizing a mediation session where both actors aired their grievances. Fox explained that he had no control over how scripts were written, and that he actually fought for more ensemble moments. Bateman admitted her frustration stemmed from feeling overshadowed, rather than anything Fox had actually done. The breakthrough came when they filmed an episode that required genuine sibling affection, and their scene together worked beautifully despite their off-screen tension. They gradually built a real friendship based on mutual respect for each other's talent. Number 8. The show almost had a different ending.
What it is. Check it out. I've lost my mind. This is a business manager to help us avoid paying taxes.
Taxes?
A tax is a terrible.
Gary David Goldberg wrote 3 different endings for Family Ties, and the one that aired was actually his least favorite, but the only one NBC would approve of. His original vision for the series finale involved Alex rejecting a Wall Street job to stay closer to his family, realizing that relationships mattered more than career advancement. It was a definitive character arc. 7 seasons of watching Alex pursue success would culminate in him choosing love over ambition. Goldberg believed this ending honored the show's core message about family being the foundation of everything. NBC executives hated it immediately. They argued that having Alex turn down his dream job would betray the character and disappoint viewers who had invested in his journey. Test screenings of the original ending confirmed the network's fears. Audiences felt cheated and confused. One focus group participant said it felt like Alex died rather than grew. Desperate to satisfy both his artistic vision and network demands, Goldberg wrote a second ending, where Alex takes the Wall Street job but promises to visit frequently, maintaining family connections while pursuing his goals. This compromise satisfied no one. The network wanted something more definitive and uplifting. Goldberg wanted something more meaningful and true to his original concept. Finally, he crafted the third version, the one that aired in May 1989. Alex takes the job, the family has an emotional goodbye, and everyone moves forward with their lives while remaining connected. It was safe, conventional, and exactly what NBC wanted. Goldberg later called it the network ending rather than his ending, expressing disappointment that he couldn't conclude the series on his own terms. He maintained that the original ending better reflected real life, where people often sacrifice ambition for love. Number 7. Meredith Baxter was battling personal demons throughout the series.
That this was nobody's business.
Which it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It still isn't, by the way. Are you okay talking about this?
It is him. No one that I personally came in touch with, no one that I knew had anything negative to say. I tell you, it was all positive, loving.
Meredith Baxter suffered through an abusive marriage during most of Family Ties' run, hiding bruises under makeup and performing cheerful family scenes, while her personal life crumbled in ways the cast never suspected until years later. Baxter married actor David Burney in 1974, and by the time Family Ties began, Their relationship had deteriorated into a cycle of psychological and physical abuse that Baxter kept completely private. She showed up to the set with injuries she attributed to accidents, a black eye from walking into a door, bruised arms from falling downstairs. The makeup department covered everything, never questioning her explanations because she was so convincing. Her performance as Elise, the warm and stable mother, required her to portray everything her real life wasn't. Between takes, she'd retreat to her dressing room and break down, then emerge minutes later ready to film another scene of domestic bliss. The irony wasn't lost on her. Millions of Americans watched her play the perfect wife and mother while she lived in fear of her own husband. Gary David Goldberg noticed something was wrong but respected her privacy, assuming she was dealing with typical Hollywood stress. Michael J. Fox later admitted he had no idea anything was wrong, which spoke to how well Baxter compartmentalized her trauma. She finally left Bernie in 1989, the same year Family Ties ended, but didn't publicly discuss the abuse until decades later. In interviews, Baxter revealed how the show actually saved her by giving her a professional identity and financial independence separate from her husband. The steady income and demanding schedule provided structure and escape from her home situation. She credited the cast and crew with giving her a safe space, even though they didn't know they were doing it. Number 6. The show launched a merchandise empire that made millions.
Alex P. Keaton you're dealing with. I'm a member of the Interfraternity Council, and I go to a college where the students actually have brains. Wants to be a Republican. The man is a registered Republican.
Family Ties generated over $50 million in merchandise sales between 1984 and 1989, creating a licensing empire that rivaled any show of its era and setting. Templates for sitcom merchandising that networks still follow today. When the show exploded in popularity during its third season, Paramount Studios' licensing department was completely unprepared for the demand. Retailers were calling constantly, wanting Family Ties products to sell to the show's devoted fan base. The initial merchandise rollout was chaotic and poorly managed. Cheaply made lunchboxes, generic posters, and rushed board games that barely referenced the show. But once Paramount hired proper licensing executives, the empire expanded rapidly. Michael J. Fox's face appeared on everything: notebooks, calendars, clothing, jewelry. Alex P. Keaton became a brand unto himself, with young Republicans buying Alex for President buttons and posters for their dorm rooms. The most successful product was a line of ties marketed as Alex P. Keaton Collection, which sold millions of units and introduced bow ties back into mainstream fashion after years of decline. Justine Bateman fought for her own merchandise line, eventually securing Mallory's Fashion Corner, products that targeted teenage girls. Tina Yoder's got a children's book series. Even the Parents Had Merchandise Keaton Family Cookbook sold surprisingly well. The wildest product was an Alex P. Keaton talking doll that spouted conservative catchphrases, which Christian bookstores stocked alongside religious merchandise because they considered Alex a moral role model. Paramount's toy partner, LJN, created an entire line of Family Ties action figures that flopped spectacularly because nobody wanted to play with sitcom characters the way they played with action heroes. Number 5. NBC tried to create a spin-off that would have ruined the show.
Not with a woman as a boss. Especially not a pretty one.
Alex, that's ridiculous.
Close. Nick, where have you been?
NBC developed a spin-off called Alex P. Keaton Goes to College that would have destroyed Family Ties' dynamic and ended both shows prematurely if Gary David Goldberg hadn't fought back with explosive fury that nearly got him fired. The network's logic seemed sound on paper. Alex was the breakout character, Michael J. Fox was a movie star, and college shows were popular. Why not send Alex to an Ivy League school and build a new series around his adventures? NBC executives presented the concept in 1986, midway through the show's successful run. They had already commissioned scripts and were scouting locations when Goldberg learned about the plan through a Variety article, rather than from the network directly. He was furious at being excluded from discussions about his own creation. More importantly, He knew removing Alex would kill Family Ties. The show wasn't about Alex, it was about family dynamics across generations. Take away the son, and you lose the central conflict that made everything work. Goldberg confronted Brandon Tartikoff in a screaming match that became legendary in NBC lore, threatening to quit and take Michael J. Fox with him if the spin-off proceeded. Fox backed Goldberg completely, stating publicly that he had no interest in a spin-off and wanted to continue with Family Ties until its natural conclusion. The network tried to compromise, suggesting they could do both shows simultaneously, but Goldberg refused. He argued that splitting Fox's time would weaken both series and that creating a college-based spin-off would make Family Ties feel like a setup show rather than a complete story. NBC eventually abandoned the project, but not before commissioning several scripts that still exist in network archives. Years later, Tartikoff admitted Goldberg was right, and that the spin-off would have been a disaster. Number 4. The cast predicted Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's disease. Years before his diagnosis,
C is for caring. Pretend you do. A is for Alex. Because it's important to Mallory. And if it's important to Mallory, it's important to me. And if it's
Michael Gross noticed Michael J. Fox's hand tremors during the show's final season and privately urged him to see a neurologist, suspecting something serious was developing years before Fox received his 1990 Parkinson's disease diagnosis. Gross, who played Fox's on-screen father, had developed a protective relationship with his younger co-star and paid close attention to his physical well-being. During Season 7 rehearsals, Gross observed Fox's left hand shaking slightly during scenes where he held props. At first, he attributed it to Fox's grueling schedule. The actor was filming movies during hiatus periods and been barely resting, but the tremors persisted and seemed to worsen week by week. Gross mentioned his concerns to Meredith Baxter, who'd noticed similar symptoms but assumed they were related to stress or exhaustion. The cast began watching Fox more carefully, noting moments when he'd thrust his hand in his pocket mid-scene or adjust his grip on objects to hide the shaking. Nobody wanted to embarrass Fox by bringing it up publicly, but Gross finally pulled him aside privately and suggested he get checked by a doctor. Fox laughed it off, insisting he was just tired and needed a vacation. He seemed genuinely unconcerned, which made the cast feel like they were overreacting. When the show ended, everyone assumed Fox's symptoms would improve with rest. Instead, they worsened. When Fox announced his diagnosis 2 years after Family Ties concluded, the cast immediately remembered those final season moments. Gross felt guilty for not pushing harder, though doctors later confirmed that earlier diagnosis wouldn't have changed anything. The Parkinson's was already progressing during those final episodes, creating an eerie quality to watching them now. Fox giving brilliant performances while his body was already betraying him. Number 3. The show's ratings collapsed in syndication. Initially,
I've done a bit of sculpting myself. Hey, Professor Rhodes, this is a stunning piece of work. Must be reassessed in light of the elasticity of consumer demand.
Family Ties bombed catastrophically in syndication when stations first aired it in 1990, losing to game shows and talk shows in time slots where it should have dominated, forcing Paramount to completely reimagine how the show was marketed. The assumption was simple. Family Ties had been NBC's Thursday night powerhouse for years, so syndicated episodes would print money for local stations. Paramount sold the package to hundreds of stations nationwide, guaranteeing massive returns. Then the ratings came in, and they were disastrous. Afternoon slots that paid premium rates for Family Ties were getting destroyed by Oprah, Donahue, and Wheel of Fortune. Evening slots lost to sitcom competitors like Cheers and The Cosby Show. Station managers started complaining to Paramount that they'd overpaid for a show nobody wanted to watch twice. The problem was complex. Family Ties had been topical and timely during the Reagan era, but by 1990, with Bush in office and the Cold War ending, Alex's conservatism felt dated rather than relevant. The show's gentle family dynamics seemed old-fashioned compared to edgier sitcoms like Married with Children and The Simpsons. Paramount panicked, slashing prices and offering make goods to angry station groups. They repackaged the show multiple times, emphasizing different aspects. The Michael J. Fox Show, the Family Values Show, the 80s Nostalgia Show. Nothing worked until cable changed everything. Nick at Night picked up the series in 1993 and positioned it as comfort viewing rather than appointment television. The strategy worked brilliantly. Audiences who'd grown up watching Family Ties rediscovered it as nostalgic escapism rather than current comedy. Suddenly, the show's gentle tone became its selling point instead of its weakness. Cable syndication saved Family Ties' financial legacy, eventually generating the revenue Paramount had originally projected. Number 2. Gary David Goldberg quit television. After Family Ties ended,
I'm sorry, it's just so damn beautiful.
He's no good for you. Well, why were you dancing with Tracy? Because I like her. Because you.
Gary David Goldberg walked away from television for nearly 5 years after Family Ties concluded. So emotionally and creatively drained by network interference that he swore he'd never create another series, despite being at the peak of his career and fielding offers worth millions. The final seasons had exhausted him. Constant battles over scripts, merchandising decisions he opposed, network pressure to set up a spin-off, and the slow realization that his original vision for the show had been compromised repeatedly to satisfy ratings demands. When Family Ties ended in 1989, Goldberg turned down every pitch meeting and development deal that came his way. Friends in the industry thought he'd lost his mind. He was 47 years old, at the height of his creative powers, with a track record that guaranteed greenlight power at any network. But Goldberg felt burned out spiritually, rather than just physically tired. He'd started Family Ties with idealistic goals about using comedy to explore political divides and family dynamics. He'd ended it feeling like a corporate employee churning out products for advertisers. The money was incredible. His profit participation made him wealthy beyond imagination, but he didn't care. He wanted to remember why he'd fallen in love with storytelling in the first place. So he disappeared. He traveled with his wife, spent time with his children, wrote screenplays that nobody would ever produce, and avoided Los Angeles entirely. Networks kept calling with blank check offers. He kept saying no. It wasn't until 1994, when he created Spin City for ABC, that Goldberg returned to television. That 5-year break became essential to his mental health and future creativity. He credited the time away with saving his love for the medium and preventing him from becoming just another bitter showrunner, grinding out episodes for paychecks. Number 1. The show's legacy was almost destroyed by a scandal that never aired.
He is genetically incapable of making less than $50,000 a year. Mallory, you don't take him. You won't believe. I asked her out. She said yes. Whoa! This is it. I know the feeling. I've been here before.
A production assistant accused multiple Family Ties crew members of sexual harassment in 1993, launching an internal investigation that threatened to destroy the show's wholesome legacy until the investigation revealed the accusations were fabricated as part of an extortion scheme. The assistant, whose name was sealed in legal documents, claimed that she'd been subjected to years of inappropriate behavior during the show's run, naming specific incidents and individuals. The accusations arrived just as Nick at Night was launching its Family Ties syndication campaign, creating a PR nightmare for Paramount. If true, the allegations would transform America's beloved family sitcom into a symbol of Hollywood's toxic workplace culture. The studio took the accusations seriously, hiring external investigators to interview dozens of former cast and crew members. The investigation lasted 8 months and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Current and former employees were questioned extensively, creating anxiety and paranoia about what might be uncovered. Several crew members retained lawyers. Meredith Baxter and Michael Gross issued statements supporting a thorough investigation while expressing shock at the allegations. But as investigators dug deeper, the story fell apart. The assistant's timeline contained impossible overlaps. She claimed incidents happened when she wasn't even on set. Specific details contradicted documented production schedules. People she named as witnesses had never met her or worked on episodes she referenced. Eventually, investigators discovered that the assistant had been fired from another production for theft and had filed similar accusations against multiple shows, always targeting those entering lucrative syndication deals. She was attempting to extort settlements from studios desperate to avoid scandal. Paramount's legal team referred the case to prosecutors, who charged the assistant with attempted extortion. The case was settled quietly, with media coverage minimal because the accusations proved false. But for those 8 months, everyone involved with Family Ties lived in fear that their legacy would be destroyed by lies. Those are 20 secrets that shatter everything you thought you knew about Family Ties. The Keaton family's warmth, masked battles, betrayals, and tragedies nobody discussed for decades. If these revelations shocked you, hit that like button, subscribe for more hidden television history, and share this with fellow 80s nostalgia fans. Drop your thoughts below.